in recent weeks, South Africa has faced a distressing reality regarding food safety, particularly for our most vulnerable population, our children. Now, since February 2024, Gauteng has reported over 200 cases of food poisoning, resulting in at least 16 fatalities, predominantly among children. The Gauteng Department of Health has indicated that the actual number of cases may be significantly higher due to underreporting in many communities. Now, to speak more on this, let's now welcome Vuyiswa Ramokgopa. She's a Gauteng MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development. MEC, thank you so much for your time. I mean, just listening to that, Gauteng recording 200 cases related to food poisoning in this province alone, and of those, of course, 16 people have died. I mean, do you think this is now reached crisis level, considering that we've just heard also from the Department of Health that Nat Joint is treating the spate of deaths due to food poisoning in the country holistically as a national security threat?
Good afternoon, Unati, and let me begin by just sending and sharing my heartfelt condolences with the parents of the 16 children who have passed away due to this crisis, and the many others, as you say, that we may not even know about. This is an absolutely unacceptable and frightening state, and indeed it is a crisis. The frequency and the consistency of these incidents is worrying and seems, at least to the naked eye, to be a coordinated action or one that certainly warrants a coordinated response. So we support the call to have the involvement of the Nat Joints and oversight of Nat Joints on this particular matter. We think it needs to be treated with the urgency and seriousness that it deserves. And as Rise Mzansi, we have certainly put forward a number of proposals through our representatives in the National Assembly on what we think needs to be done.
I mean, our conversation comes just as about 24 learners or so from a primary school in Mpumalanga have been rushed to hospital, also in a related poisoning case. Also today, MPs are debating an urgent need for nationwide inspections, to protect especially children from expired and poisonous foods sold in these spaza shops, some of them which are unregulated. How do we begin to arrest this situation, given also the fact that we're still investigating the source of this particular chemical?
So, there are really you've spoken somewhat about the call for increased regulation. Certainly, there are three areas that we think need to be prioritized. One is indeed the regulation and registration of these outlets and food vendors. Food safety is not something that we can compromise. There is already legislation in place that monitors, be it meat products and other commodities, but there certainly needs to be a more rigorous regulation of informal outlets as well as outlets that are retailing, not just in townships, even be it in CBD areas and others. We cannot have a situation where people are selling expired goods, potentially dangerous food products, and are going completely unregulated. So there needs to be a strengthening of the regulatory regime in that regard. And the public must be educated. There must be consumer awareness. And I think this moment, as much as it is a painful crisis, it is also an opportunity to ensure that we now invest in and drive community awareness and education on food safety. I mean, the number of, there are approximately 560, health inspectors in the Gauteng province. And if you look at the extent of coverage of spaza shops and informal retailers, the number is not confirmed, but it is in the range of 100,000 to 150,000 nationally. And if you think Gauteng, being probably having a large proportion of those, having only 560 health inspectors is not enough. And certainly that aspect of environmental health and safety and the capacity to conduct that work must be increased. Yeah. So from a perspective of sort of government, there's work to be done to ensure that we actually have the capacity to do that. But indeed, the consumers and ensuring that consumers are empowered with the necessary information to be able to make informed decisions about food and products that they are purchasing in retail outlets is really important.
You've, written about and spoken about your concerns on how this particular trend is exposing, just in the backdrop of a severe food insecurity. From your vantage point as a Department then of Agriculture and Rural Development, just from ensuring that the supply of food that we consume is then rigorously checked. Just perhaps take us into your confidence in terms of what you are currently looking at as a department and working on, particularly against that backdrop of food insecurity in the country.
Yeah. Absolutely. One of the key drivers of this issue is the fact that, we have a crisis of urban hunger. We have millions of people living in communities all over Gauteng who are struggling with food insecurity. And to put it more plainly, are not guaranteed a single meal in a day. And that is something that we have also been raising awareness about and saying we need to end the scourge of hunger and urban hunger, particularly in children. In a province like ours, we have 20% of children under 5 years old who suffer from stunting because they don't receive proper nutrition, they don't get the right food. And so we are making a lot of investments into community gardens and community farming initiatives, also investing in localized fresh produce retailers. And that is to ensure that we can actually have a steady supply of fresh produce, healthy food, good quality food that meets the nutrition and calorie requirements of an average person, and that is affordable at a price that people can actually afford. A lot of what we are seeing and the rise of these spaza shops is actually a function of people desperately looking for food that is cheaper, that is closer to them, that is more accessible. But we need to be able to meet that demand and ensure that people are getting not just food to fill their stomachs, but also healthy food, and food that is contributing to their overall health.
MEC, thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate you coming on. Vuyiswa Ramokgopa is the Gauteng MEC for Agriculture and Rural Development, of course, as we continue then to put a spotlight regarding food safety as well as regulation in as far as these food incidences, food poison incidences in the country are on the rise.